the historical context of Paul is very important for N.T. Wright, so he spends considerable amount of time explaining and describing all those cultural worldview contexts that Paul lived in. So he describes the Roman context, the Roman Empire. He describes the Greek elements of Greek culture, philosophy, religion, and especially primarily Second Temple Judaism, in which he lived. And this is very important for Wright because he's in conversation with New Testament scholars of various branches and mainstream and liberal theologians. And his understanding is that in the last few centuries, history and theology were separated from each other. And his purpose is to reintegrate them again. So theology and history should go hand in hand. He even uses two biblical stories as parallels, as parables to explain or illuminate why the unity is needed. So in Jesus and the Victory of God, which is his major monograph on Jesus, he uses the parable of the prodigal son. The prodigal is history, which has left the father's house, theology, when Reimarus Lessing started to talk about an ugly ditch that separates the two. But it needs to return to the father's house, so history has to return to theology. In Paul and the Faithfulness of God, which is his major work on the Apostle Paul and his theology, he uses the parable of the slave Onesimus, who Paul advocates for in his letter to Philemon, and says that theology has to return to history too. So he makes a huge effort to demonstrate that we cannot understand Paul's theology if we don't take into account his historical background. So that is why it's so important for him to show us how Paul's theology is rooted in history.